Special Prosecutor Jack Smith has now officially thrown down the gauntlet against Judge Aileen Cannon, telling her in a filing this week that if you do not correct your error, I'm going to have no choice but to go to the appellate division, and they're probably not going to be too kind to you. Specifically, of course, Jack Smith is still irate over the fact that Judge Cannon recently ruled in favor of Donald Trump and said, yes, we'll go ahead and unmask all of the names of all the people that did the investigation, all of these potential witnesses, even though they're already receiving death threats, as Jack Smith pointed out, the few that had been named. Judge Cannon said, doesn't matter. Let's just tell everybody who these people are. And in his filing this week, Smith basically said that obviously, Cannon, you've made a clear error. But he continued, those procedural and substantive missteps contributed to the court's conclusion that the government was required but failed to satisfy a heightened First Amendment standard to safeguard from public disclosure materials under a protective order. Regardless of how the court arrived here, that conclusion was clear error, and nothing in the defendant's response demonstrates otherwise. So basically what Smith is telling her in this filing, he then, of course, went on to say, if you do not change your order, I'm going to the appellate court. But basically what he's saying is, listen, they didn't provide you any legal reason why these names should be unmasked. Unmasking these names does not change any of the facts of the actual case. There's no legal requirement to do so, yet you chose to do so anyway when the only thing that changes is the safety of these individuals. Kind of distilling his legalese there. That's what that means. You had no reason to do this other than Trump wanted you to do it. And it's very obvious. So here's what happens at this point. Does Cannon just say, oh, okay, fine, you got me. I'm going to go ahead and reverse my order. Do you think that's going to happen? No. And Jack Smith knows that she is not going to willingly be like, all right, fine, big whoopsie-doo on my part. I'm going to undo it now. She's not going to do that. But he is, again, shot across the bow here. This is your last chance before I go to that appellate division. An appellate division that, by the way, has consistently ruled against Judge Cannon's rulings. Now, Smith hasn't had to go to them very often, but the few times he has been very successful. And if he has to do it again, and if he goes to that court and says, this woman made a very clear error, this judge skewed the law to go in his favor. So I don't just want this order reversed. I want her off the case. And to be honest, even if he doesn't say that he wants her off the case, depending on how that appellate division rules, the words they use in their actual decision, that could then be used to get Cannon kicked off. Let me give you an example. If the court comes back and agrees with Smith and says, yes, she had no legal basis for doing this, that's one thing. But if they say it's obvious that she did this due to pressure from Donald Trump, or as some kind of a favor to Donald Trump, or anything that even hints that she did it just to appease Trump, that is grounds for dismissal. So be very careful about what happens with this ruling. Be not necessarily careful, I guess. Watch clearly what happens. Read those words very carefully. Because if they open the door whatsoever by even suggesting that Cannon acted improperly, that is all Smith needs to get her kicked off this case.